The leader of the Royal Knights, Alphamon, makes a comeback in BT13. Just like Jesmon, Alphamon fell off after the ban list. With the new support line, Alphamon makes his way back into the meta. The gimmick of this deck is to build a huge stack and go into Alphamon or Ryukin. Having Alphamon or Ryukin, you will be able to continue your turn, swing for multiple checks, and delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level. Let's jump into this deck profile. For the DGX, I am still running 4 of the BT7 Doraemon. Doraemon allows you to draw a card when an effect places a Digimon underneath itself. The whole deck is about building the biggest stack possible, as I talked about, and you will have many cards with effects that put Digimon underneath. Perfect to help you go through your deck and get pieces quickly. Onto the level 3s, I am running 4 of the BT7 Dorumon. On play, allowing you to get a card with X Antibody in its trait. This can work for X Antibody option cards since it does have X Antibody in its trait. It also allows you to retrieve Coda to your hand. The best effect of this card is its inherit ability. It is important to know that if you place this card underneath a source for your Digimon, it will trigger and it will give you a memory. This is perfect to extend your turns and making your Digimon's Digivolution cost less. Up next, 4 of the Ryutamon from BT8, similar to Dorumon except you get Yuji instead of Coda. The Inherit gives Decoy, which can help you protect your Alphamon. Honestly, it doesn't come up for me that much since you are building a single stack, but late game if you have 2 Digimon, it can come up. 4 of the promo Sunrizamon. Sunrizamon gives all your black Digimon with 13,000 DP piercing, and with the new support you will be getting DP buffs allowing you to utilize Sunrizamon's effect often. Its Inherit, I would argue, is just as good, giving the Digimon 13,000 DP or more, security attack +1. This is great as it allows your Alphamon to become more aggressive. Having Oriyumon underneath the stack will allow you to unsuspend and be able to attack again, meaning 4 checks in 1 turn. Onto the level 4s. At first, I was only using 2 copies of Darugamon and eventually bumped it up to 4 copies instead for a few reasons. One, it is a cheap cost, so if you do break, you will be dropping a champion for a play cost of 4, which is amazing if you start off at 3 and potentially memory choking your opponent by playing Darugamon. Second, giving your Digimon 1000 DP all turns is so beneficial, since this will put your Alphamon at 13k indefinitely, allowing you to gain effects of Sunrizamon. I did drop the Darugamon from BT7 down to 2 copies. It is costly being at 6 play costs, and the blocker Inherit really only triggers if you have another Digimon in play with X Antibody. The Inherit is the same as the new Darugamon. When I first made this deck, I did use Ginryumon, which gives your Digimon blocker. I personally love this Digivolution line. I later dropped it since it will mess with the synergy with running Dex Darugamon. Dex Darugamon is better than both Ginryu and Daruga from BT7. Allows you to Digivolve for free from Darugamon. This is the reason I stick to solely playing Darugamons. When you Digivolve, you can trash a card with X Antibody in its trait to gain 1 memory. And in case you haven't noticed, all your Digimon have X Antibody besides Sunrizamon. So when you Digivolve, you will be gaining a memory. Last but not least, gaining blocker and retaliation for the turn is so busted. Now your opponent will have to wait another turn so they do not get deleted with retaliation, or are forced to get rid of it via an effect if they want to swing. 4 copies of this Dex Darugamon. Continuing on now to the level 5s, we have the new Doru Greymon from BT13. This card is almost just as good as the limited Doru Greymon. When you Digivolve, you reveal 3 cards from your deck, and then slide a Digimon with X Antibody and its traits underneath this Digimon and trash the rest. If you do this, this Digimon cannot have its DP reduced. So a great card to help against decks like Shine Greymon and Kentorosmon. Now, I would argue what makes this Doru Greymon better than the limited one would be its Inherit. At the end of the turn, once per turn, you can place 1 X Antibody Digimon card from your hand underneath it. In the earlier sets, when Alphamon first came out, it was slow due to not having ways to build up your stack, and this card helps you with doing just that. If you have more than 1 of these Doru Greymons in your stack, you can trigger multiple at the same time, just remember that. Now, sadly, we can only run 1 copy of this BT7 Doru Greymon. Much like the new one, when you Digivolve, you can place a card under itself to gain protection from effects deleting this Digimon and getting its DP reduced until the end of your opponent's next turn. This basically guarantees that you have this Digimon until your next turn, allowing you to go into your level 6. But now with Raid running around, I'd say unrestrict this card. Then of course the Inherit gives you security attack +1. Lastly, 3 of the Dex Doru Greymons from BT9. Similar to the Dex Darugamon and being able to Digivolve on top of itself for a play cost of 1 this time. When Digivolving, if you trash a card with X Antibody, you will gain a memory. So again, Digivolving for free in a sense. And second, when digivolving effect, when you have a Doru Greymon in its source, you are able to delete at level 4 or lower, which is great because up until now we have not seen ways of removal besides retaliation. However, with retaliation, your opponent can't play around it. Now for the level 6s, we have Big Daddy Alphamon, currently running 3 of the new Alphamon from BT13. Honestly, I have been thinking of running it as a 4 of, but that evil cost is costly. When you digivolve by placing a card with X antibody underneath Alphamon, all your opponent's Digimon with the play cost of 10 or more cannot attack. I personally love this because let's say you have the limited door of Greymon in the trash, well now you can place it underneath, giving you the extra security attack. Its all turns once per turn allows you to protect Alphamon from leaving the battle area by returning one X antibody card under it back to the bottom of your deck. This helps with preventing from decking out. If you were to clash to another Digimon, you could prevent it from getting deleted as well, which is a great tactic to control your opponent's board. See why I want to run 4 of? Then of course we need to run the Oriyumon here, 3 copies. Personally, I love this Digimon. I more than often digivolve into Oriyumon to trigger its when digivolving effect. By placing a card with X antibody in the straight as its bottom source, you can delete a Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less. It is a hefty cost, but if you slid Dorumon under when you digivolve, you would gain a memory costing 3. During your turn, if an effect adds a source to this Digimon, it gets 2000 DP and cannot be deleted by your opponent's effects until the end of your opponent's next turn. With the when digivolving effects of the Doru Greymons, honestly this card is invincible, since it will also gain cannot reduce its DP. The inherit allows your Alphamon to unsuspend itself at the end of the attack, and when you swing with a security check of +2, 3, the second check will usually be the game winning strike. Last of the level 6s, we got one of the BT9 Alphamon. When you digivolve, it allows you to place an X antibody Digimon from your trash under this Digimon. Then once per turn during your turn, when an effect places a card under this Digimon, you get to digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. Keep in mind that with the new Doru Greymon's inherit, it will help you trigger this effect as well, since you are still resolving your effects at the end of your turn. That's it for the level 6s. Moving on to the bigger Big Daddies. Level 7 Alphamon. Digivolve for 3 if your stack has both Alphamon and Oriyumon. When you digivolve, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. Here's where the Alphamon shines. At the end of your turn, you may return up to 7 non-DGI cards with X antibody in its straight back to the bottom of your deck. For each card return, you gain 1 memory. This effect is game changing because not only can you maintain your turn, you could potentially get enough memory to build up another stack. At 16,000 DP, it is one of the strongest Digimon card in the TCG. Onto the option cards, I'm running 1 of the final Zubagon Punch, giving your Digimon 3000 DP, gaining blocker, reboot, and security attack +1 so long as it has 16,000 DP is nuts. Late game, this is good as you could turn your Alphamon or Yukon into a 19,000 20k DP blocker, or allows you to be aggressive early on with your Alphamons. The inherit, of course, which is just adding as your hand, which is probably better because you're able to play it when you want. Up next, 2 of Kongos. And let me tell you, playing this card with the new Alphamon just shuts down your opponent. Kongo by preventing your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less to attack. Then with Alphamon, preventing your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 10 or more to attack. Your opponent can now only attack with Digimon with a play cost of 8 and 9. And of course, not to mention, this Kongo also prevents your opponent's effects from adding cards to the security stacks. This is big for decks like Mastemon and the new Kentaros. Since it focuses on adding cards and removing cards from the security stacks, you will shut that down. I may cut a card in the deck to add another copy of the Kongos. Then 3 of the black memory boost, just to help you not get memory choked, and of course helping you search through your deck since all your cards are mostly black. And as for the tamers, it is a bit tricky since you have Cool Boy, Koda, Yuji. I did attempt running each tamer to see what could be most effective. Starting with the Yuji, I'm running 1. Sometimes I do wish I had more, and other times I feel like he isn't needed. Gaining a memory and drawing a card when you move X antibody, a card with X antibody from breeding area, can help prevent you from getting memory choked as well as go through your deck quicker. However, sometimes I would move up the Sunrizamon and miss out on the effect. Second, being able to add a source when you do attack was big when this tamer came out, but now you do have the new Doru Greymon that allows you to add sources without having to attack, so that is better. As for why I am not running Koda, 2 simple reasons. You have many ways on getting memory and you have so much search power already that this deck performs well off without Koda. Sorry, Coda. And then of course we move on to the Cool Boys. I was running 4 of, but I'll be honest, I think that is way too many. I saw Cool Boy way more often than I needed to. Excellent for searching and allowing you to gain memory and draw one card when you digivolve onto the same level. So good when you digivolve onto the Dex cards. Sometimes you will not have the luxury of digivolving same levels though. You know what this deck needs? A Kyoko Tamer. That's what this really needs. Check out the rest of my BT13 deck profiles and I'll see you on the next one.